Okay. Pom 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 pom. So we are live. I should mimic some 8-bit music, no? Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, people. Unfortunately, we don't have 8-bit music now, but we might have some surprises for you later. Greetings from sunny Bucharest. It's not Paris, but we also, as a small trivia, we also have an Arc de Triomphe, which is called the Arcul de Triunf in Romanian. We have such a building in Bucharest as well. You can see it in my background, but you can also see the original, the OG Arc de Triomphe in Paris. And the reason I'm mentioning Paris is because today themed is the French research, I would say. It's French research. And it's also a session, a Great Ideas, the December session, powered by Croissant. So while we're waiting for some people to join in, I would like to welcome everybody for joining us. Thanks a lot for being with us throughout all the year, and it's crazy, you know. It's almost the end of the year, and it's been one hell of a ride. But we had fun, and today, hopefully today we'll also have a lot of fun together with my colleagues, and I think we can also, I can introduce my colleagues until people are still joining. So with me here, I have the three French duo, like Pierre, Felix, and Ivan. They are joining us from lovely France. They have brought with them a lot of French cuisine and specialties and memes. Then before that, we're gonna have a fireplace chat. This is new. It's something that we introduced for this session for the first time. It's gonna be moderated by Mr. Brian. Actually, not moderated. It's gonna be introduced by Mr. Brian, talking with Mr. Warren. Hello, guys. Are you here? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep, here.
Hello. How are you?
Good, how are you, Dan? Long time no see.
Yeah, man. You know, it's been a long time. I I shaved my beard now. You know, it's such a sad time. But
Don't do it again.
hopefully I'll see you next year at some conferences.
I hope so. Bring the palinka.
For sure, man. Like I always have a stash of palinka. It's here with me right now. So, Mr. Brian, how are you? How's America?
The land of the free and the home of the brave, right? It's fantastic.
Exactly.
As we look at all these French backgrounds and whatever's behind Warren, I don't know what that is.
Nobody knows.
The pinnacle of tourism.
Yeah.
This is Northern Ireland's finest tourist spot. This is called the Giant's Causeway.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I never heard about that one. Nope. Okay, guys. So I'll let you carry on.
Yeah, sure. So as Dan said, welcome everyone. Thanks for showing up. So if anybody's familiar with GReAT Ideas, we started this back in the summer. We ran a series of webinars. It's typically something that we do internally within GReAT. We like to sit back, chat a little bit about new cool tools that we're doing, and we're going to do that today. But we decided to try something a little bit new. It's always been internal to GReAT, and we said, hey, let's let some strangers in and see what we can do to make them squirm or have fun with them a little bit. So we have Warren here today, as Dan said. He hails from the land of Northern Ireland, which I've been told is not the same as Ireland.
Correct.
Yeah, Gavin O'Gorman also fills me in on this all the time.
Yeah, Gavin would know as well.
So yeah, Warren works for Talos, and he does much of the same stuff that we do at GReAT. So we thought it'd be really cool to kind of chat about some current event stuff that has been ongoing in the news the last month or so. maybe try to get his take. So you're not just hearing from people from GReAT, you know, see what Cisco and Warren himself think about some things, have a little fun and move on. So if you want, let's get right into it, Warren.
Yep, thank you for letting me be your first victim.
Yeah.
Because we don't know how this will go.
Well, we'll see how it goes. Maybe next time we'll find somebody better. I don't know.
Definitely.
So yeah, you know, I was trolling through the news recently to try to come up with some topics. And I tell you, the one thing that kind of stood out, and maybe in the last month or so, was Google's Project Zero has just been on fire lately. There's been, I think I counted probably 7 or 8 vulnerabilities that they reported in the last, well, I would say it was probably about 3 weeks ago or so now, but within about 2 weeks time span, they reported some major shit, to be honest. And it was a little interesting to me. It kind of piqued my interest because the timing of these as they came across was a little weird, or maybe a little coincidental, if you will. And I was wondering if you had kind of a hot take on that, or if you had any ideas on what was going on, or any information on the vulnerabilities themselves, how they were used.
Yeah, it'd be good to get that information, wouldn't it? It definitely would be interesting. Yeah, these are, so obviously these are crazy vulns. I mean, we've got cross-platform stroke multi-platform Chrome crashes, remote control, RCAs, kernel privilege escalation. I mean, we've got everything that any, I suppose what we always refer to as a sophisticated attacker would want. It looks to me extremely plausible, like these have probably been used to attack people they expect to be using Chrome. We've seen chained exploits before, as obviously Kaspersky and Talos have discussed before. But the fact that only Google have saw these would probably suggest to me that they've got the sufficient telemetry to back up that information to actually say these are being used in the wild. We've seen them. And for me, I think it's probably going to be a single actor or a group within a single actor's organization or a single nation state. Because it's Chrome, it's cross-platform, I would say we're maybe looking at watering hole activity, if I had to take a guess at it, a stab at it. But it's very interesting. Those guys are smashing at Project Zero at the minute. I don't know if you've seen the one they dropped today, the radio proximity iOS one. I mean,
that was Ian, right? I think
yeah,
Ian, that was an insane hack. Yeah, the amount of shit that he had to do was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool. But yeah, the Android stuff, I mean, Android, iOS, Windows Desktop, Chrome, I mean, that to me looks like potential chained exploit usage. I don't know. I don't know what your view on it is.
Oh, actually, that was Dean today, wasn't it? Yeah, I think that's what it was. No, you know, going back to that stuff, I counted them up. It was 7 that I'm aware of that came out, and yeah, there was Chrome desktop, there was Chrome for Android because, you know, different platform there. We've got there was a Microsoft kernel privilege escalation exploit. And then there was 3 Apple exploits that came out too, which was, you know, that kind of was hush hush, but I think it was Ben Hawks or whatever that tweeted about that, like within a week of the other stuff. And I think you're right. I've heard through the grapevine some mumblings that this was potentially the same actor. I think Shane Huntley from Tag had actually chimed in on Twitter and said, you know, this was being used in the wild, or at least some of these were, with regards to the Microsoft stuff. And he stressed the fact that it wasn't being used for the election stuff, which, you know, I don't know if that was a political thing or whatever, but you know, you got to take his word for it, right? Shane's not just going to bullshit people on Twitter. So it's kind of interesting. I wish they would release a little more details, if possible, down the road on maybe who the actor was behind it or how it was being used. But I really do think this does look like somebody stumbled on a server, some sort of watering hole, some location that had all of these exploit chains on it. And once it's found, it's like, got to report it, right? So yeah, they did what they did, and they do a great job at it. But yeah, it was really interesting. So, all right, well, that's cool. Thanks for your take on that. You know, another thing I kind of noticed in the last month was a lot of different countries, actually, this is probably for the last 6 months or so, a lot of different countries and governments have been sort of blamed for targeting COVID-19 research. And I'm just curious on, your thoughts. I kind of want to know what the community's thoughts are on this, because I'm not talking about using COVID as like, say, a lure to target somebody else. I'm talking about the active targeting of research, for example, vaccine development, things like this. It's sort of a moral dilemma that I foresee, some people having with this is, is this an instance of a country trying to just, get ahead while they can and do the research that they can in whatever means necessary to protect their citizens? Or is this somebody trying to capitalize, economically or otherwise on somebody else's research? I just wonder what your thoughts are on if it's even legit, if it's kosher, if you
I mean, I think we need to probably start from the off and just say morality is out of the game now. I mean, there is no morality in what we do and what we research anymore. We know that. And to sort of touch on the vaccine development side of things, I mean, I suppose a country will want to do everything they can to obviously ensure their own citizens are safe, and they may not have the capability to do that from a medicinal point of view or a research and laboratory point of view. And if they have the capability from a cyberspace point of view to go out and obtain that information, I think it's likely they will. I'm not saying it's going to be something we see all the time, but certainly for something as big and globally impacting as coronavirus and COVID-19 has been, I think we will see that. I suppose it maybe plays into that sort of old adage of I'm not a thief, but I wouldn't let my family go hungry without stealing bread kind of thing. I mean, if they can get a one-up on being able to protect their own citizens, they may do it. But yeah, like I sort of touched on at the start, I think the morality of it all is away now. I mean, we've seen hospitals attacked constantly in the last X years with extortion group gangs. We've seen the human life factor impacted that's been reported in the media before because of these attacks from these cyber extortion gangs. And they're obviously doing to be financially motivated and to capitalize on the vulnerabilities that exist in that infrastructure to get money. But to sort of touch on your point, the potential countries doing this are going to be hopefully trying to do it for not financial gain. They're doing it to protect their people. And morality aside, I think we'd probably all protect our own people if we could. Now, that's not to say this is the right or wrong way to go about it, but I get why a country would do that if they could do it, if you get me. But obviously, for what we do on a day-to-day basis, it's completely immoral and it shouldn't be done. And we should hopefully explain to the country as a whole and the world as a whole that we want to share these vaccine capabilities. We want to be able to give this to other countries. And I don't know, I mean, the financial impact of it all does gather up, and you do see the financial motivation from companies producing these vaccines to say, well, we don't want to give this away for free. So it's a real difficult question. It's a very interesting question, actually, because COVID-19 has obviously been used. I know we didn't want to talk about lures and stuff, but we have seen that used throughout this year as well. And I mean, we probably will continue for a while. But yeah, morality of a state stealing research. I mean, if you told me if it was a bomb, I'd be like, that's really bad. But when you tell me when it's a vaccine, I'm like, it's really bad that they're using that method to steal it. Exactly. But I get why they would do it if they could.
Yeah, and I mean, the arguments are for both sides are legit, I mean, there's some real bad guys out there that do bad shit all the time. Mm-hmm. There's a couple countries in particular that I can think of that maybe have sanctions applied to them or something like this, where they can't even potentially interact with someone who is selling a vaccine, right? Mm-hmm. They're left on their own, right? Mm-hmm. So how else are you going to get it? Well, whatever means necessary, I guess. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because there's been a lot of finger pointing lately. My guess is, I'm pretty sure if you're a country that has a cyber capability, my guess is you're probably involved in some sort of espionage related to a vaccine research. That's just my guess.
I would guess that also.
But in the long run, yes, it's a pretty interesting question. I'd be curious if anybody else in the audience has any thoughts on this. Like, hit us up on Twitter or start a conversation, do a poll, something. But yeah, it's an interesting topic, I thought. Moving along, our buddies over at Microsoft, they caught a little bit of flack lately with doing this TrickBot takedown. The community didn't respond. I mean, it was cool that they did it. Yeah, cool effort. But there were definitely some folks in the community that kind of cracked the whip on that a little bit and said that it was pointless. you're not going to take it down. It was done incorrectly. They didn't get the whole infrastructure, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, and clearly it's back and being used.
Yeah.
So do you think that this was more of a, was there some other agenda behind it, politically motivated? Was this just a flaunting that we can do this? What do you think was behind that?
So
how successful was it?
And like, listen, I don't like the shit on any other company or anyone else doing the things that we all want to do. I mean, we all want to disrupt actors, disrupt operations, and stop operations. We all want to do that, definitely. I think the core thing that I personally didn't like about Microsoft's whole MO behind this was they really pinned it on election capability. They basically said, we're doing this to protect the election. And I mean, does that mean if it had been next year and it wasn't an election year, they wouldn't have carried out this takedown if they had the capability? That's the side that I got a bit not annoyed. Annoyed's too strong of a word, but that's the side I got a bit sort of conflicted with. I'm like, I get why you would do this, but are you really only doing it because you want to protect the election? Because yes, the election is very important, but TrickBot doesn't only impact the US, as we know. TrickBot is global everywhere. I think just what you mentioned there as well, they obviously didn't get all of the infrastructure. I think they reported something like 94 or 96% of the infrastructure. And I'm sorry, but that's not enough to do a takedown. And it's obviously very good. It's great, but it's not enough because that 5% or whatever that's remaining, well, they're able to spin back up. I mean, when they have that left over, they still have capability. And it's obviously, like I say, we have to commend anybody that disrupts any operations, but I just disrupt it and move on if you can. But if you can't, I don't know what the play is there really. I mean, we've seen TrickBot innovate straight away. It didn't capitulate, it innovated. Vitaly published stuff on, isn't it Lightbox, I think he called it, the new reconnaissance module within TrickBox. So it now has an active reconnaissance piece within it to check what's going on. But I don't know, I hate to say this out loud, but it seemed to me like it was headline grabbing by Microsoft. And
yeah,
that's not something we really know Microsoft for, to be totally honest. I mean, they have a great cybercrime team, as we know. We've got some great researchers, we've got excellent vulnerability guys and stuff, but that's what it seemed like to me. It was like, we're going to do this during election period. Let's hope everybody likes it.
I think, I mean, again, you know, we all have friends over there, and I honestly think their intent was good.
Yeah.
And I probably, you know, the other thing, to the benefit of them, we probably don't know the whole story behind this, right? They are working with, you know, government officials and other people that have information that, you know, is not public. So I like to hope that it was done, you know, legitimately. It was planned out. Obviously it was. And maybe the intent wasn't to take it down completely. Maybe the intent was just to throw a wrench into things, right? To hinder, you know, delay some of the stuff that maybe was being planned. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting because, you know, when they've done takedowns in the past and it's very meticulous, it takes a long time, right? You got to make sure you get every little piece. And this was pretty evident that it wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And maybe it was out of their hands.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, I suppose. Like you say, we don't know everything. Maybe it was out of their hands, and they obviously did it with the backing of third parties, intelligence partners, and ISPs. So who knows? I mean, it's cool that they did it. Don't get me wrong. I think it's awesome that they're able to take anything down like that. But either you take it all, or what's the point? It's like a Hydra. Cut one head off and two appear. So.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. One more thing. If anybody in the audience has a question for Warren, good, bad, indifferent, whatever, fun, silly, put them up on the thing, and I'll try to ping them real quick. I've got time, Warren, for probably one more thing, and then we'll have a little bit of fun real quick, and we'll move on because I want to keep this to about 20 minutes.
Yeah. Cool.
Recently, CISA, the CISA, the guys here in the States, I should say, I would say our government in general here in the US has, they've been dropping a lot of interesting pieces of malware and advisories and things like this out there. And you know, I love that they're sharing information, but some of the stuff they're sharing is old shit. It's, for example, they just did a ZebRC this past month, for instance. They did this ZebRC and ComRat advisory. And I looked at it and I'm like, wow, there must be new stuff on ZebRC or new stuff. But no, it's just them, I guess, admitting that ZebRC and ComRat are out there. I'm not really sure what they were looking for or why it was done, but the samples they gave were, you know, a couple years old, 2018 time frame or something. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are. You think there's a motivation there? Is this again play into the election thing? You know, what?
I don't know. So what I sort of thought about that was they obviously were now in their eyes officially linking Kaspersky and GReAT with Russian-backed intelligence. That's the takeaway that I got from it. But that the last couple of months seems to be a real sort of firefight on that Russian intelligence style and Russian state-sponsored, alleged Russian state-sponsored actors. I mean, you look at the work that we did and Kaspersky did on Olympic Destroyer, that was referred to recently, and also to give the backing of Russia or another nation state or the alleged nation state that we see. We know you guys are doing this, and maybe it's just an outcry again to say, listen, we know this is happening, but it didn't make much sense to me either. It's like, here's a 2-year-old sample that I think, who did the original report on? I can't actually remember. Was it you guys?
On GReAT?
Yeah.
I know I mean, like Zebersky was something that I cut my teeth on when I started at Kaspersky, but GReAT, I can't remember who the first was for that.
No, I can't remember either. So
yeah, it was Paul probably. Your old
yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Like a thief in the night, you guys, like a thief in the night.
For those who don't know, we stole Paul from Warren, by the way. So
they did.
Starting soon with us.
They did. They've took my French guy. But it's okay. We've got many other multiple European people out there. We've got people in Croatia and Portugal. We've loads of people. But yeah, the CISA stuff, I don't know. It's a weird one.
Yeah, I think it was probably, you know, I mean, we can all probably guess it was probably motivated, you know, trying to point fingers and things like that. I hope they come out with something that's new, right?
Yeah.
They have done that in the past with this drover rub, whatever you want to call it, that happened over the summer, but
that's right.
But then they don't provide any samples, and everybody's like, this is some mysterious thing that nobody's ever seen. So, you know, we'll see what happens. Keep doing the work, I guess, and publishing stuff on malware, and hopefully we'll get something good soon.
We'll get somewhere.
All right. So real quick before we go, I've got some lightning questions for you. And I want you to just like give me your first answer that pops in your head. Quick answers. I'm not going to grade you, but we'll go from there, and it'll be cool to kind of get your take on some stuff. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Let's go.
Favorite APT group?
Oh, Lazarus.
Lazarus, interesting. All right, Ida, Ghidra, something else you don't revert.
Ida. I don't want Java anywhere. Get Java away.
All right, Mac, Nix, or Windows?
Windows reversing, Mac for everything else generally.
Interesting. Okay. Here's one. Favorite F1 team?
Not an F1 fan, but a buddy of mine races for Aston Martin in GTE. So let's go. I don't know. I don't even know if Aston Martin have an F1 team, but
you're supposed to say Ferrari, by the way.
Is it not Mercedes? Lewis Hamilton?
Yeah. At Kaspersky, we're required to say Ferrari, essentially. But,
yes, you are. Ferrari.
Yeah. Here's a good one. Weirdest American food?
Oh, Kalashi. Is that what it's called? It's obviously not American by trade, but that's the first place I had it. A kolache? A kolache? That's weird.
I don't know. What the hell are you talking about?
I had that in Texas, and that's weird. Like, that is weird. It's like this weird ball of dough with meat in it, but it's not nice.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's not nice. Weirdest actual American food, like from American nature, all your candy, all your sweets are awful. Your chocolate is awful. Your candy is overloaded with sugar. Best thing I've had in America, Mexican cola. Mexican cola is good. Big fan.
All right. Here's one I know you're interested in. Poker, blackjack, or slots?
Poker.
Poker, definitely. For sure. Yeah, I knew that about you. Twitter, Facebook, or the Insta?
Twitter and Insta mainly. I don't really use Facebook much anymore. I only joined Instagram like a year ago, but Twitter and Instagram now.
Cool. And last one, because I like cars and I'm pretty sure you like cars too. American muscle or European speedster?
European speedster all day. Yeah. Slick, fine, refined, just lovely, just great.
I'll take an old vet any day.
No, definitely not. Only if it's a straight line.
All right, Warren. Well, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. And if you guys have any more questions, just post them and we'll try to get to them later. Mr.
Awesome.
Dan, I will turn it back to you.
Oh wow.
Thank you very
Oh
much.
wow. I can tell you that also I had some Mexican cola and oh my God, it was so good, you know. It was like crazy. Uh, anyway, I've never heard of half of the things you mentioned in the like lightning questions. So I have to do my research, especially about the F Formula One teams. Actually, I heard that there was like Bahrain. There was an incident in the latest Bahrain track, like a car got split in half or something. It was like pretty crazy.
Yeah, a guy crashed real bad. Roman Grudge, wasn't it? There's a real bad accident, but he got away very luckily with like.
He's fine. He's totally fine, and
Yeah.
it's actually it's an extra proof that the safety features that they installed like some years ago are actually working. So I'm happy. I'm really happy about that one. But it was still crazy, you know, like ball of fire and everything. It's like wow. Okay, so thanks a lot to Vitor for like adding some comments in the chat. Remember that you can like chat with us. You can chat with the speakers using the all panelists and attendees chat. You also have the option to send your messages to all panelists, but then the rest of the people don't see them. Also questions, there's a tab for questions, Q&A, and it's easier if you type your questions in there, mostly because we will be able to answer them. So thanks a lot to Brian and Warren for this like amazing discussion, coffee table discussion. We're gonna have a series of 3 talks now. After each presentation, we're gonna take some questions if we have time, and then at the end we're gonna have an AMA session for roughly half an hour, where we're gonna try to tackle all your other questions, maybe new ones. You can ask the speakers directly, and so and so. With this being said, viva la France! Let's start with the French power, and our first speaker is Mr. Pierre.
Hi, Dan.
Hello, hello. I have a question for you. Where is your background? How do we know that you're in France right now?
Don't move.
Oh, wow.
Because there's a bottle of champagne. Just.
Oh my God. Yes. Yeah.
That's a definite proof.
It's real champagne. It's from Champagne.
Yep, and it's suburb. You know, as you can see, it's been opened.
Uh-huh.
A suburb.
Okay. Okay.
That's how we know.
So perfect. So more about this and crazy DeathStalker. Back to you, Pierre.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. So hello, everyone. I'm Pierre. I'm a senior security researcher within GReAT. I'm living in France. I was previously a CISO for a multinational agricultural company, and I held various positions within the French government. We will talk about DeathStalker again, as we already did so during our previous GReAT ideas, but we will focus on their most recent malware strain, which is called Power Paper, and which has actually not been publicly documented yet. We will expose some tricks they use within delivery chains or the malware itself. And as that's a Baguette powered edition, some faces will pop up in the slides. Try to guess who the people are in the chats, and let's go with it. Actually, let me first quickly remind us all who DeathStalker is. So DeathStalker has been active since 2012 at least, and we exposed most of their past activities during our previous GReAT Friday, as well as in a detailed blog post on SecureList published in August 2020. They use several malware strains and delivery chains across years, the Python and VBS-based Janicab, then the PowerShell-based PowerSing, and JavaScript-based Evolnum. They consistently used what we call dead drop resolvers, some obfuscated content hosted on public major web services like YouTube, Twitter, or Reddit, which once deployed and decoded by malware would reveal a command and control server address. They also consistently leverage anti-detection and evasion techniques, as well as intricate delivery chains where lots of files would be dropped on targeted computers. They also most of the time relied on spear phishing emails with attachments or links to public services, as well as Windows shortcut-based script execution to kickstart their infection. Now, as regards the targeting, we have seen DeathStalker's malware hitting different clusters of victims in all parts of the world, with a focus on law and consultancy offices, as well as fintech companies, but without any clear and stable visible interest. As so, we concluded that DeathStalker is a cyber mercenaries organization. So let me now get in by first presenting the PowerPaper malware itself. So PowerPaper is a Windows in-memory PowerShell backdoor that can execute remotely send shell commands. In strict accordance with DeathStalker traditions, the implant will try to evade detection with various tricks like human activity detection through mouse movements measures, application running through Excel handling, and antivirus listing through WMI. The implant's command and control logic stands out as it is based on communication via DNS over HTTPS using Cloudflare responders. But the implant will fall back to regular DNS if the latter fails. Communication content between server and the malware itself are encrypted with AES. The whole code is, let's say, not of top quality and might hint at developers in a hurry, rather young or unexperimented developers or non-formally trained developers. PowerPaper and previously described PowerSync use an almost fully identical implementation of AES encryption with PowerShell. Only AES padding more than a function parameter change, but everything else is strictly identical. Now, as regards DNS-based command and control communications, the implant will send TXT type DNS requests with DNS over HTTPS or plain DNS to a malicious domain name server. If the target is validated, we'll get back on that later, the name server replies with a DNS response embedding encrypted commands. Both requests and responses contain easily signable content for network monitoring engines, but such content changed depending on the exact sample variant. The command result is sent back to the server using a batch of length variable A-type DNS requests. Now, we tried to query such malicious name servers for several domain names. And we actually noticed that they were open resolvers that always resolved A-type queries with the same IP address. In that case, an IP address belonging to the US Navy, which is by no way linked to queried domains or name servers. So using this fact, we could easily identify previously unknown malicious domain name and name server that DeathStalker set up. PowerPaper on top of DNS-based command and control is also signaling successful implant startup or implant execution flow errors with HTTPS to a Python backend, which is hosted by Python Anywhere. So Python Anywhere is a public and legitimate user content hoster that enables users to store and run Python-based web services or websites. So such signaling has also been used directly from first PowerPaper infection documents that we identified as Word remote content links. The Python backend is leveraged as a target validation and logging mechanism, and as so prevents researchers and bots to get further commands from the PowerPaper C2 DNS. There were several malicious backends hosted at Python Anywhere, and the hoster shut them down as soon as we notified it. So DeathStalker adjusted the logic, removing signaling from most infection chains and adding an intermediate compromised legitimate WordPress website as a reverse proxy between the implants and the Python backends. Now let's talk about the PowerPaper delivery chain and infection logics. The first type of infection and delivery chains we discovered is based on a malicious Word document. It's not clear how the document is delivered to targets, but due to infection trails we analyzed and the documents we retrieved, We believe it can be embedded as a mail body and also downloaded from a phishing link. Anyway, the document contains decoy content, and embedded VBA macros run the malicious logic that will drop files from a subdocument to set up persistence and run PowerPaper. Embedded and dropped files names change with across the variants of the malicious documents. So the full documents we retrieved contain a social engineering banner asking users to enable macros execution. And that's how we can explain how macros got executed in the first place, as they are disabled by default on modern Office products. Decoy contents are varied, and the first we found in the wild was about carbon emissions regulation. We had some fake travel booking form for a very specific event next year in Turkey. Of course, some are leveraging the global interest on the coronavirus pandemic. And again, a fake business travel booking form and contract. On one of the decoy contents, we could find a supposed sender's contact details. The signature impersonated the legitimate travel agent identity, but contained fake contact details. So now, to detail some tricks of this infection chain, let's start with this double one. DeathStalker hides strings in word embedded objects, or OLE package. They hide the strings in these embedded objects properties, like the object's hyperlink property. And this is done to obfuscate the execution logic to build and execute hidden scripts. DeathStalker also has an acute sense of fun, as we can read in the slide in green color, like the comment, "This function is totally legit, and if you are an antivirus, you should totally let us pass." The malicious initial Word document from this delivery chain contains another encrypted subdocument, and we can see there from the VBA macro code how it is decrypted and opened. Another trick is that during the delivery workflow, DeathStalker leveraged Windows compiled HTML files, or CHM. This is used as a regular archive container, and they call a Windows built-in tool to unpack the content. All malicious files that are finally dropped to the targeted computers are packed in such CHM containers, which are deceptively named as image files in case they are found on the target's computers. This, of course, is done to help evading detection. DeathStalker uses a VBS loader to start PowerPaper execution. The loader is launched immediately after delivery and at every computer startup then. It is masqueraded as a global sign verification tool and obfuscated with a custom encryption function. We can see that legitimate contents, help strings, and even variable names have been copied in the malicious loader code and mixed with obfuscated content. It seems like DeathStalker used a legitimate script as a template for their VBS loader. And now here comes our ferns, finally. The VBS loader actually loads a dropped steganography picture, which is a picture of ferns. And the VBS loader extracts the PowerPaper implant from the picture. The implant is then run in memory only and is never written as a clear text file on a targeted computer. The first steganography image we found actually showed peppers. And that's why we went with the PowerPaper name in the first place for the implant. So starting October 2020, we also identified another variant of PowerPaper delivery chain. This infection chain is based on a Windows shortcut file with the misleading double docx and lnk extension. It is very similar to the previous mentioned delivery chain, but there are some changes. First, the malicious macros logic is moved to a script within the shortcut file. So there are no more VBA macros involved. Then the Word document in this chain is just a decoy and malicious file store now. It is downloaded from a remote location, public services like Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive, or even compromise legitimate websites, instead of being embedded within another file. Of course, the malicious file names also change depending on the exact Delphi chain variant and malicious documents. So from this chain, we'll get our two last tricks. The Windows shortcut is actually firing a Windows shell with an obfuscated command. This command is a specific form of a for shell loop that will generate the PowerShell string from the assoc shell built-in command and some string parsing. So the shortcut will actually fire a PowerShell script, which in turn will recompose another second stage script from the downloaded Word document content and finally execute the VBS loader a first time using a signed binary proxy execution. We managed to get a view of the PowerPaper targets in the first half of November. So from what we could observe, DeathStalker targeted mostly unidentified organizations in Lithuania, Turkey, Cyprus, Kazakhstan, Russia, and South Korea. We were able to identify only one, which is a law consulting office. Previous PowerPaper campaigns also targeted organizations in Switzerland, Estonia, Saudi Arabia, Italy, Great Britain, Mexico, Romania, Germany, and the United States. Now to finish, a few prevention and protection leads. So content hosters could scan for hosted malicious files at least sometimes, and where the terms and applicable regulations allow. They should set up endpoint protection software on servers, and most of all, stack protections on administrative and remote accesses, like doing IP whitelisting, MFA, authentication logs auditing. Website owners have to upgrade and to update WordPress and plugins, as well as stack protection on backend accesses with the same means and content hosters. So IP whitelisting, MFA, and logging. And this should be done for publishers and operative accounts as well. Corporate IT can restrict and monitor scripts engine execution, or at least continuously monitor for associated Windows events. They should set up endpoint protection on computers and servers, of course, and they should try to allow DNS requests from desktops and servers to corporate responders only. Then, of course, filtering the perimeter with DNS and HTTP request inspection. At the end, employees' awareness still has to be raised in lots of organizations. Links and attachments from unknown sources or senders should never be opened at all, in particular Windows shortcuts that are coming from the internet or macro-enabled documents. Now, here come the Baguette people that were passing by the slides. You certainly recognized most of them, of course. So the first one is Marie-Joseph Paul-Yves Roche Gilbert Dumotier, better known as Lafayette, who was a French aristocrat and military officer who commanded troops during the American War on Independence, notably during the decisive siege of Yorktown in 1781. He, of course, became a key figure of the French Revolution after having trained on the US one. Then we had Blaise Pascal, frequently quoted as Pascal only, who is a major mathematician, physicist, inventor, philosopher, and theologian of the 17th century. When he was a teenager in 1642, he invented a device to help his tax collector of a father, which was nothing less than the world's first mechanical calculator. We also had Madame Audrey Tautou, who is a French actress, well known for her role as main character in Amélie movie, but also for main roles in Venus Beauty, Russian Dolls, The Da Vinci Code, or Coco Before Chanel. Last but not least was our national Vercingétorix, who united the Gauls and crushed Caesar's legion at Gergovia before starting a then long tradition of surrendering. Fun fact is that archaeologists never found any such winged helmets anywhere. So most historicists agree that this is purely fictional and that the helmets did not look like that at all back then. So thanks a lot for listening. This whole presentation will be followed up by a blog post on SecureList on tomorrow. And back to you, Dan.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Pierre. I think there are no questions apart from a quick mention and this mention says that if we can blame Pascal programming on Blaise Pascal.
We can blame all sort of programming back to calculator invention.
Yeah, true.
We can blame everything on Pascal.
That's totally true. Yeah. Okay, so remember, if you want to ask questions, send them to our Q&A tab. We can see them and we can answer them. We're gonna meet with Pierre later for our AMA session, but now we're gonna move on to Mr. Ivan. Can you hear us? We can see your screen. Yep. Maybe you have to unmute yourself.
Hello, Dan.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello. Bonjour. Bonjour, my friend.
Hey. How is it going?
Oh, nice exotic background you have there.
Thanks. It's not fake, by the way.
Wow, amazing.
Just saying.
Yep. I envy you, man. Okay, so I think we can start.
All right. So, hello, everyone, and thanks a lot for attending this presentation. It's going to be a little bit technical, so sit back, relax, and brace yourselves for assembly code is headed right at you. To ease the pain a little bit, this presentation has been sprinkled with interesting French facts, so be sure to stay until the end. Today's topic is reverse engineering Delphi applications. And some of you may ask, why, Ivan? Why do you do these things to yourself? Is Delphi even a thing in today, in 2020? And the answer to that question is, it really doesn't matter. And this is because malware authors do not really get those memos. So if you're doing some reverse engineering on a regular basis, then you may very well find yourself scratching your head in front of a Delphi program someday. So the aim of this presentation is to give you a basic introduction to how they work so you can go straight to the point when that day comes. Of course, since this is only a 10-minute presentation, we'll only go for the low-hanging fruits. And so apologies if you've already worked on Delphi binaries in the past, because you may not learn that much. So first of all, what is Delphi? Contrary to what you may think, this platform is still under active development, which is, well, to me at least, was surprising. So this latest release dates back to September 2020. And initially, Delphi was developed as a Turbo Pascal successor. A more relevant data point is that Delphi code compiles to assembly on a variety of architectures and OSs. So it includes Windows, Mac OS, Linux, but also mobile devices such as Android and iOS, which are both supported. So no bytecode is involved here, pure ASM. Apart from this, it's a fully object-oriented language. And Embarcadero, the current maintainers for this environment, also provide a C++ build chain. And so it appears that there is full support for Delphi code calling C++ code and vice versa. So this is something that you might encounter one day. I find that a good way to figure out how to reverse engineer a new language is to write simple programs, compile them in debug mode, and then look at the generated assembly code. And so I should admit right off the bat that this is the first time in my life that I've written Delphi code. And so by no means I am an experienced Delphi developer. So all the code excerpts that you'll see in this presentation are actually derived from online tutorials. So for starters, here you'll see an application called project1, which is a simple function calling a sum function that adds numbers together, 4 of them actually. And the first thing to note is that apparently in Delphi, this result variable always exists. It's a special variable in which return values are stored. So also worth noting, this program is compiled as a console application here. Delphi also has support for GUI apps, which we'll be looking at in a bit. So again, all this program does is call this function to terminate. So let's just have a look at the generated assembly code. So before getting into the nitty-gritty details, I want to point out that for our main function, the Delphi compiler has created a method called initialization, and also what looks like a class named just like our program, so project1. That method is the entry point of the executable, and the first observation is that there is some name mangling involved here, which looks a lot like C++. Beyond this, we can recognize the usual function prologue, starting with the setting up the stack frame, so push EBP, move EBP, ESP, etc. Next, we do have a system isConsole attribute being set to 1, and then a call to sysinit exe. This is definitely not code that I wrote myself. It was added by the compiler. Apart from this, right after that, we finally see the code that actually belongs to us. So one of the key objectives when reverse engineering a program is this, right? We want to find where the code that we wrote or where the code that was written by the software author is actually going to reside. We do not want to drown ourselves into whatever library code that the compiler has stapled to the executable. Here, I would also like to direct your attention to our function code and note how the arguments are passed to the sum function. So here we have this push 4, move ECX3, move EDX2, and move EAX1, and then the call to the function. So one of the key takeaways from the previous experiment is that the calling convention used in Delphi programs is actually called board and fast call. And it's not the one that you might be used to. So the way it works is parameters are being stored in EAX, EDX, and ECX in order, and then parameters are being pushed on the stack. And then, as usual, the return value is just set in EAX, like we're used to. Going back to this idea of finding where this developer code is located in the program, another very interesting thing to notice is here that the two functions that we have created have actually been placed near the very end of the program. So you'll see here on this screenshot, if you look at the IDA-Pro's function window, you'll see that the slider is all the way down and everything above is library code. And this is something I've found to be consistent across all the Delphi binaries I've looked at. So if you don't really know where to look at when you're starting to work on your Delphi program, if you don't really know where to start your analysis, then go to random functions right at the end of the program at the list here and just move up the xrefs, because odds are you will be looking at relevant code. Now, with something just a little more complex, Delphi IDE does provide an easy way to create GUI applications, and they have window designers and everything. So obviously malware will not display anything visible to the user, but I have seen in the past some malware overload this form create method to get some code executed before anything is ever shown to the user. So in this example here showed on the screen, you would see that this dialog box containing hello world would be shown before the form1 window ever appears. And so if you were to add something like terminate program there, then this form1 window would never even appear. So as you may expect, GUI apps are way more annoying to reverse engineer because they are event-based. So everything happens based on callbacks when a form is created or destroyed, or when a user just clicks somewhere, etc. You also have a timer mechanism, which is really something to pull your hair for. So if you can't really start looking at the app from the entry point and then read linearly from there. It just doesn't work. You will never find the actual developer code from there. So what I did here was generate a new GUI project from the IDE. It's actually the default one, and added this form create method to print the well-known hello world message. So there's the entry point generated for this program, and things are a little bit more alien there because we'll still have our init.exe function, but obviously there's more compiler code added there. So our form create method is nowhere to be seen because it's a callback, which gets called somewhere later, probably down this create form call, but we don't really know. So located our developer code is a little bit trickier. On this excerpt, I have highlighted this yellow argument number 2 to the create form function here. And you'll see that it represents the class to instantiate, which is named CLS_unit1_tform1. Obviously, it's in the release build of the application, you would not get the function names. And you might have to guess what that create form call is, although I have noticed that IDA-Pro's Lumina does quite a good job at identifying those. So if we follow this pointer, you will end up into a function table. And if you scroll all the way down, then you will end up finding those structures, which contain pointers to all those callbacks, chiefly our form create overload. You will also notice that the names generated for these functions are something like underscore, class name, underscore, and then function name. And this remains the case even on release builds. So once you get the class name from the second parameter on the create form call, you can sort functions by name in IDA-Pro in the function view and then find those like this as well. Anyway, when we go down this tform1 form create function, then we do find finally our hello world code, which was the main objective. So now what I'm going to do is look at actual malware sample and see how what we've learned applies. So let me just open the screen sharing again. This time I'm going to share my whole screen. Here I go. And hopefully you will be able to see my IDA window there. Is that the case? Yeah, I do hope so. So here, what I did was take a sample from the biodata campaign from, I think, the Bahamut threat actor. And I just started here from the entry point of the program, which is the start function. So of course, here, this is a release build, so we do not have the symbols for this program. But we do have this create form function, which we were looking for. And so if we look at the various arguments, especially the argument number 2, we will see here that we have this unit1 tform1 class as well. So they did not change the name. And if we follow this, then we end up in, again, a major function table, which we can use to find where the actual developer code is located. Another thing you could do here is look at the function list and the function window over here, and you'll see that here you have all the function names that look like very close to the end of the program, that look like random names. One function that catches our attention is the form create function. I think they probably could have changed that name, but they didn't. So let's see in here. So as usual in Delphi code, you're going to see a lot of operations at the beginning with fs0. This is basically the Delphi compiler setting up exception handling. So if you follow these, you'll see here that you have this system handle on exception calls. Apart from this, another thing I want to show is here some strings, which in Delphi have a special structure. So I'm not sure IDA3 will be able to provide those structures for you. So I'm just going to go over them very quickly in case you need them. So the way they are created is they start with 0xFFFF. I don't know why it seems to always be the case. Then you have this length parameter that's stored here, which is the length of the actual string. And then finally, the bytes of the string itself. So going back here, we have this call to this function, tform1 underscore jh something something. And the parameters for this function are here. It looks like, I'm not exactly sure which this one is, I don't recall, but the second one is the text of this string here. So if you go down this function, then we can see that we have in the graph overview, let me see if I can take it out. This function does look a little bit weird. So this is developer code. It's not something that Delphi generates. But anyway, going over very quickly at this over this function. First, it starts with a assignment of the string. So this strlasg call. This is what it does. And then you have this str copy. So this string that was passed as an argument is being copied. But only one character at a time. You see here, ECX, the argument is only one. So we just copy the string one argument at a time. And then in each of these calls, in this big tree that you just saw, there is a comparison with this strcmp. And every time, what the code does is it checks whether the character that was just copied is either the character 4 or the character L or the character R, etc., etc. And when the correct character is being found, then you end up in the right branch and replace the character with the correct one. So this is a string decryption function, which is basically a big lookup table. So going back to the slides, sadly, I do not have more time to look into this sample, but I'm going to leave the hashes here for you. Please don't hesitate to call me on Twitter if you have any questions. As a bonus round, I also added a second hash, which is a bit different. This one is, I think, a mix of C++ and Delphi code. It contains a lot of anti-VM and anti-debugging stuff. So if you want to challenge yourself a little bit and see a fun little sample, be sure to give a look at this one. It's available in VirusTotal as well. So I think, sadly, this is all the time we had. I hope that at least it provided some, it was useful for at least some of you. I hope that maybe this presentation, you'll get back to it one day when you go back to, when you find some Delphi code one day. And finally, I couldn't pass this chance to do my own little market research. Basically, currently we're working on some online courses at Kaspersky on reverse engineering. And yeah, there is a poll that should be displayed on your screen now. And so if you are interested in such offers, please yeah, reply to the poll. And also I would be very grateful if you just hit me up on Twitter and tell me if you have any experience with online courses and have some feedback about what was missing in your opinion or what needs to be improved. What are the contents that you think are mandatory, should be in there. So yeah, I'd be grateful for any input you guys can offer. And I think this is it. Thank you very much for having listened to me and having powered through all this assembly code. And if you have any questions, I don't know if we have the time, but I'll be there for the Q&A. So thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Ivan. Let's look at the poll answers, no? Maybe we should have those ones as well. And yes, I see a lot of love for Delphi programs.
Yeah, a lot of love for Delphi in the chat.
I remember when I was like in like middle school and I was like learning how to program for the first time. I had the well-known Turbo C Borland compiler, the blue one. It brings a lot of memories, Yeah, the blue screen, and then we moved from Borland. We had like Pascal, and then we started learning C and Borland C compiler 3.1. And yeah, it was impossible. It was impossible to make it full screen. Yeah, that's also true. But it had a text editor built in, so that was like pretty cool. Like you were typing your like C code in there directly. Okay.
Yeah, and actually, one thing I'd like to say is in
Yeah.
the making of this presentation, using their IDE was a pretty good experience, actually. I thought their tools were pretty nice, and I had no issues creating projects and compiling code at all. So it's like a very different from other languages that I've tried out, and which I'm not going to mention. But 1 point for Embarcadero there.
Yeah. Okay. We have one quick question for you from Robert.
Yeah.
Do you use IDR when decompiling your Delphi samples or in any other tool that helps identifying properly the Delphi libraries in IDA?
So I don't really. What I do is I use Lumina to identify all the well-known functions, but I do not have scripts like IDR or anything Python-based to help with the analysis. I just usually find that using just IDA's Lumina is going to provide me all the basis I need to get started.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Also,
And
Brian says that.
Brian, I know that a lot of people do not know that Daft Punk fact, and it's a doozy, but it's true.
I was actually surprised about VLC. I'm using it like I love that project. Like that. Like I can like see a lot of like all like file types, formats, everything. VLC can open them.
It's awesome. Let's get Jean-Baptiste Kemp for the next great ideas. I think it would be awesome.
Deal. I think it's a good deal. Okay, cool. So let's move to our last speaker for today, and then we're gonna meet with you, Ivan, later for our AMA session. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Mr. Felix, are you here? Hello, Mr. Felix.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Bonjour, bonjour.
Hi.
Hello.
Everything is okay? Yeah.
Yeah, we can see you. We can see your presentation.
Yeah, the background just for the demo, but we can start now if you want.
And we can assure our listeners that you are indeed in France.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Not in Paris, but in France, yes.
Yep.
As Pierre too. So let's go. Hi, everyone, and thanks for coming to this third talk of our Baguette editions of Great Ideas. This one is about a project that I've developed this last 4 or 3 months and named TinyCheck. And this project aims to spot malware on smartphone just by analyzing their communications. The main, like, this idea just came to me in June after like a meeting with Le Centre Aubertine-Auclair in Paris. And this center is dedicated to the promotion of like gender equality. And of course, this center is also fighting domestic violence at like different levels. And this day, the meeting topic was about stalkerware. And I didn't know really, I know what was stalkerware, but I never like touched them before. And for me, it was only like, it was spyware. So my recommendations and my advice was mostly like for all spyware on smartphone. And for those who don't know what stalkerware is, it's a kind of like monitoring software or like spyware that is used mostly for stalking any relative, and it can be bought by everyone to spy on like your loved ones. So it's worth to note that like regarding NGO and like victims that they are working on this field, they are not dealing with someone. We are not dealing, with someone that can do like forensic analysis on the smartphone by themselves, and but we are dealing with some entities with almost like no technical skills and victims that don't know or even can think that a smartphone can be compromised by a relative. And for them, it's like another world, like they even don't imagine that really. So to this also, we must consider the analysis time of the smartphone, just because like if you have a woman that comes to a woman shelter, for example, you have like some meetings with these victims that are very short and don't exceed like 1 hour. And so we can do like deep analysis of the device. We can like connect the device to a laptop, do some forensic analysis directly during a meeting. So a few days after, I came back with this idea of like creating a kind of kiosk where like the victim can just check by themselves easily their phone without installing any application and without having like technical knowledge. The main aim behind that is to allow everyone to check his phone, but of course against stalkerware, but of course it can be used also for different kind of malware and of course state-sponsored ones. Because like stalkerware are just like malwares. I have like this little table presenting the differences, so you don't have many differences. It acts likely the same. You have like some hidden application running in background. You have the data collection and exfiltration capabilities, some recording of audio, video, or they can take photo, geolocations, and most of them just communicate as like every app by HTTP or HTTPS. They are beaconing to receive, to ask for like order that they will receive. Some of them reacts on events. For example, if you have like a new SMS or a message, the malware, the malicious application will forward the content to the attacker. And of course, like the only stuff that changed from malware to spyware to like stalkerware, some stalkerware can push message. It's like the anti-thief argument of the vendors. And of course, stalkerware are available for anyone. You just have to like to type Android spyware, for example, on Google to have some website with Photolia photos on it, asking you to buy and install this malware. Why I do this comparison between like state-sponsored implants and stalkerware? Just because like in IT security industry, mostly related to like APT researcher, we deal a lot with this kind of implants. For example, like there is many research from NGOs such as Amnesty International or different vendors, ESET, Lockout, even Kaspersky. We are all dealing with the threats day to day. And which is interesting with this investigation is that most of the time we came to that not from the victim side, but just because we saw some code overlap or some infrastructure overlap between these implants that are like on smartphone and other implants from the same attackers that are communicated to the same infrastructure, but on other different platforms such as Windows or Linux. On the slide, you have like two different examples, one with Ocean Lotus and the Phantom Lens campaign. So you have like a big overlap with Ocean Lotus, Cobalt Strike C2, and their like Android implant. And the second one is from Lockout. It's some like spyware on the Uyghur community attributed to some Chinese-speaking APT. So, and after all, I remember like this comic strip from HKCD about like, you know, software dependency, that like you have some very obscure dependency, some software, and when you have a vulnerability on that, like you have the whole stuff that broke. And it's quite the same today with like cyber-espionage operation. It can be applied very easily. Like, you know, sometimes you have like, you have guys that develop very, very sophisticated implants. They bought very expensive exploits. They try to compromise a lot of stuff from a different range of device. But the infrastructure of this attack can be very easily spotted and correlated on the internet or like network noise. And sometimes, of course, like you have the same infrastructure that is shared between these different implants, so the Windows implants, Linux implants, iOS implants, everything, and the campaigns. That's why looking at the communication and the infrastructure is so important nowadays to identify bad stuff, because we can do a lot of stuff to find bad guys by looking at them. So let's back after like the small presentation of the threats. Let's back to the project and what I wanted to develop for this project. So first, I wanted something very fully standalone. You know, something that you can bring to the restaurant if you are like with a contact and you want to analyze his phone very quickly. You can bring like this Raspberry Pi, like the TinyCheck project. With a power bank, and that's all. So no keyboard, no laptop, nothing. I wanted also like to install nothing on the target's phone, just because it can ring a bell to the attacker that something is going on, some back stuff is going on to them. And also something very easy to set up, to use, and to understand. The fact is that some victims don't know any technical stuff, and you have to explain to them with very like small sentence, a very clear word what you are doing. Like with this project, I analyze your phone communication to see if you have like a malicious application which is communicated to the internet. That's all. After like using some what I name extended IOCs, so indicator of compromise. I'm gonna come back on that after, and heuristic analysis, and of course for the perseverance, full packet capture, so it intercepts everything, and after like it can be very easily saved from your browser or from like to a USB key. So here we go. TinyCheck acts as just a bridge between your Wi-Fi access point, so like your home internet router, and the device that he will analyze. So you can add, if you want, a small touchscreen for like, if you want like the fully standalone version, but it's not mandatory at all. The mandatory stuff for this version is just to have a second Wi-Fi interface. After that, after everything is okay, you have installed the application on your Raspberry Pi. You have just to connect TinyCheck to your internet router, and the second Wi-Fi interface will create automatically a Wi-Fi network where you will connect your smartphone. So that's all. And after, directly, you will have an interception that will start for like the communications. And when you start the interception, you will have like a message if like TinyCheck have seen bad stuff or not on like the communication. And after, you save the report on a USB key, and that's all. And as a demo is still better than words, I'm gonna have to show you it against a well-known stalkerware. And I wanted just to thank this vendor for like his free version of the stalkerware. So I will stop to share my screen. Whoop. So here you have like TinyCheck. So I hope that everyone sees something. I'm gonna just, sorry for the, I'm gonna just click on the button. Yes, I have internet, that's cool, because I can configure it. It generates a network, blah, blah, blah. So I have a new network generated by this box. I'm going just to connect my device to the network. So just a few seconds to type the password, because it's like it's a very old Android. For one F8. So okay. Demo effect.
Can you also connect to your Wi-Fi network as well?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. So here the capture started. So you will see like in few minutes, I will show you the results. So let's wait like 1 or 2 minutes. I came back to my presentations. Back. And I don't see Zoom. Up. Quick. Up. So the aim of it is to detect the known, so like stalkerware or past cyber espionage campaign, but also like the unknown. And for that, we use different stuff. So first, we will not reinvent the wheel. So we use Zeek and Suricata in order to analyze the packet capture. So for those who don't know, Zeek is just a network dissector from like a packet capture, a pickup, or directly, if you want to tap a network directly, it will generate logs with a lot of stuff, DNS, HTTP communication, SMB communication, everything. And Suricata is just on network IDS, so you push some rules, and if you have like some bad stuff in your pickup or during like if you tap a network, it will just generate alerts. I use what I name extended IOC and heuristics. So extended IOC is just IOC that are like more wider than a very simple like domain IP address, just to try to find unknown threats. And I have like 3 different alerts level. Regarding heuristic, you have to remember that we are analyzing just one device at a time, so we can it permits us to do some interesting stuff. For example, I want to catch some UDP connection going outside the local network, or with a destination port other than a specific number. I want also to be alerted if like the remote host has been not resolved by a DNS during the sessions. I want to be alert if like the remote host is using self-certificates. So it's interesting because like many C2s today are using self-signed certificates. The same with like free certificate issuers such as Let's Encrypt and other different stuff like a connection which is not on the standard port, or just if we see HTTP requests during the sessions, just because less and less applications are dealing with HTTP and mostly they are willing to HTTPS. And regarding the IOC, so you can inject in TinyCheck different stuff such as domains, FQDNs, IPv4, IPv6 addresses, certificate SHA-1. So I wanted to thank Sian Etienne for their work on stalkerware because they gave me a lot of IOC that I've integrated directly to TinyCheck. And after I use also extended IOC. So by extended IOC, like I mean Suricata rules, thanks to Emilien from the CERT EU to providing me some Suricata rules. The same with like network range, because you know the attackers most of the time bought their infrastructure by cluster. So if you know that you have like some suspect stuff going in a network range or some autonomous system, the best is to see on the same autonomous system or network range if you have like some other threat that can be linked to the same attacker. So you have also different side here that are pre-installed, like on the TinyCheck name server for like cryptocurrency name server, so you can integrate them. Free DNS, which includes like dynamic DNS and also like all of the fancy TLD like .xyz, etc., etc. So regarding the backend, so you have like the front interface, but you have also the backend. I'm just verifying that, okay, it's the demo effect. I don't have any more with Wi-Fi. Regarding the backend, it's very a simple backend where you can like do all of the configuration of the device, and also you can inject your IOCs directly. You can export them too. So if you have some IOC that you want to keep them like TLP, amber, or red, you can just push them only on the device. After, like the end user interface is pretty simple. You have just to click, and that's all. You have done your capture and you have saved all of the things on the USB key. I will show you just after. And for like the future of this project, the aim is like to optimize the analysis engines, just because I'm not the most Pythonic developer here in the house, and of course share and get more IOCs. If you are like an NGO or an entity that wants to have its own IOC management server, maybe why not create a server for that, mostly for like IOCs that are TLP red or amber. Why not? Just contact me. And after like more operational security, so pass all of the network stream to Tor and try to do some counter analysis detections. So regarding the results of the demo, I'm gonna to stop up. No. Regarding the results of the demo, it was connected to the Wi-Fi network. So here you have like 2 high alerts. Your device seems to be compromised. I click on show me the full report, and here you have the reports. So blah blah blah. I've seen a DNS query to something related to stalkerware. I see some HTTP connection to the access point created by TinyCheck. I see some HTTP communication to I don't know what, and that's all. And after, you can just click to save the report, bring your USB key, and yeah, that's all. You have all the stuff on your USB key. I will not share the present. Well, I'm gonna do that. Just sharing that for the last minutes. So something to notice here. So I had like different feedbacks, and this one was funny from someone saying that I will not running this shit from Kaspersky on my own device just because he's fearing that we send maybe telemetry to Kaspersky. Everything is like standalone. No telemetry is sent anywhere. Everything is on your device, and I have even no telemetry of the number of intelligence of that or anything. So you can, everything is open source, so you can just look at the source and ask me if you have some question, but everything is transparent and clear. So thanks for your attention. If you have some question, don't hesitate. There is a link to this project here, which is hosted on GitHub. And yeah, thanks for your attention.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mr. Felix. It's an amazing work, and you open sourced this project this Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, not last Wednesday.
Yeah,
last. It's been 1 week now. There are some. There's been quite a lot of discussions. People are using the project, so yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, we don't have any specific questions for you.
Okay.
But I think it's time to bring back everybody else for our AMA session. And somebody asked for the GitHub link. Can you paste? Can you? Yeah. Can you just paste it in the chat?
Yeah, in the chat.
All panelists. Yeah, we'll post it there. Ah, okay. Maher already posted it. Thank you, Maher.
Thanks, Maher.
Okay. But we have another question. Sorry, I just saw it before we go to the AMA. Is it possible to replicate this with Wireshark?
Yeah, sure. Because the backup is saved on the USB key, so you can do all of the analysis that you want after.
Yeah. So basically, you can trace back and do whatever you want. Okay. So I see there are no other questions. Let's go for the AMA. And in this AMA, we encourage our viewers to interact with us. You can ask us questions on the Q&A tab. You can chat with us on the chat tab. And while we wait for your questions, I would like to ask all our speakers. And I would go with Warren because he's our guest, so he will have the opportunity to answer first. What do you think are the main happenings in 2020? Like, what were the cool stuff that you think it's worth mentioning now that the year is almost finished? In your opinion, of course. You please unmute.
Like, yeah, unmute would help, wouldn't it? Yeah. Related to our industry or just in general?
Well, let's say with to our industry, and maybe if you want to add in general, sure.
So I'll start with in general because it's just happened today. And the fact that we've got a group of scientists who've now created a vaccine for coronavirus in the UK has approved it today, I think is absolutely astronomically important to, I think, getting us all back to travel and being able to do the things they want to do. In terms of our industry, I don't really know. I think the fact that we've pivoted so well to doing these online things really good, and we still have that information sharing, essentially the good stuff that we go to conferences for happening. I think we've done that really well as an industry. And I mean, the stuff that GReAT have done and the great ideas, and obviously SaaS online stuff was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yeah, I think the fact that we've pivoted as an industry to doing things like this online and still having that information sharing and the conversation going without worrying about going to travel to places and stuff has been really cool for us. I think it's really innovated our industry a bit.
Yeah, clearly. Also the fact that nowadays a lot of people shifted to online conferences. I think that's a pretty good point. Anybody else wants to add to this thing? Mr.
Yeah,
Brian?
I'll chime in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, two of the biggest pieces of research that I think people need to pay more attention to from this year.
Okay.
I would say, and not to play favorites, but they are from us.
Okay.
There was a piece of research written a while back about something called wild pressure. I wish people would look more into this. So a little bit of a tidbit. It would be really cool if some other vendors or researchers can share some data on this. And the mosaic regressor stuff, the UEFI Baguette research we had. I think that's something that at the beginning of 2020, we set out to find more instances of UEFI rootkits, and they actually found one. So it was pretty cool to kind of come full circle on that. So those are the two big ones for me.
Yeah, there was like we announced a real UEFI rootkit. Like that was like it's yeah. Okay. What about Ivan? Pierre, what do you think?
Yeah, so I also thought about mosaic regressor. I think was a great research. I'd like also to mention, I think Talos' work on strong pity, which I think was amazing. Apart from this, I think everything published by Citizen Lab always gets me really excited. I think they're doing amazing work, and I love what they're publishing.
Yeah, well, talking about 2020, I would say one of the major, one of my favorite events is definitely the open sourcing of a brilliant tool, which is called TinyCheck. You should definitely check it out. Apart from that, and it's kind of at a whole other level, but I'm quite happy that a UN program of action for advancing responsible state behavior in cyberspace has been announced in October this year. And I think that is a slow but definitely needed next step to try to get a bit of order as regards cyber weapons in cyberspace. And it's a teaser for another conference and webinar we will have on the 14th of December. And as regards research, I had much fun working on what is called Penguin X64, which is a Linux rootkit and companion userland backdoor that we discussed in GReAT Ideas.
Mr. Felix, I think you also want to answer a question about TinyCheck, and also I want to ask your opinion about your favorite research.
So my favorite research is still in investigation. It's something like we have seen very strange and very sophisticated watering holes that it seems that no one's seen them. But we still don't have the final payload. So it's very like they know what they are doing, and very, very interesting because as of today, like we don't see many watering holes. Maybe like from some guys, but we know there's guys, and the guys that are doing the watering hole that we have seen, I don't think that we know them, and they are very sophisticated. Regarding TinyCheck, so I've seen the Christina's questions. How long is the minimum time that TinyCheck needs to check the device? For me, I think that between 10 and 20 minutes can be very good. It really depends to the beaconing interval of the malware. So it really depends, but you can do almost like I tested it to 4 hours and it was it was good. So as you want, really.
Okay, and we're gonna go back to Warren because I want to see your answer about your favorite research of this year.
So I went with Mosaic Regressor as well. When you guys published it there a while ago, it's awesome. Any UFEI stuff's extremely cool to see. So yeah, I think it was Mark. Was it Mark Letzig that just joined you? Him and Igor and Yuri. I think I may be getting that wrong, but it was a very cool piece. I remember seeing that on one of your guys' first GReAT ideas things. It was very cool. From a Talos perspective, I really enjoyed our fingerprint research. It was Paul and Vitor did earlier on the year. If you didn't see that, that was really quite cool. A couple of videos and stuff on it about iOS and Android differences of fingerprint technology and authentication based on fingerprint. That was really cool.
Okay. Yeah, I also, as I mentioned before, I think like Mosaic Regressor was like a crazy research. Okay, let's move on to a more like let's say emotional question, if I would say, like traveling and online conferences, like offline conferences versus online conferences. How do you feel? Like, what do you think? Do you think we're gonna be able to meet face to face next year, assuming that there's like a vaccine right now? Do you feel like the end of the tunnel is near? How did you survive throughout the period? Mr. Brian? No?
I don't know. I'm a little torn on the online conference stuff, to be quite honest with you. I mean, it's cool that we were able to pivot as a community, I guess, and keep up the information flow, like Warren was saying. But I don't know. I feel like maybe we went a little too fast and too furious, if you will, and we're getting like online conference burnout at some point.
Fair enough.
I'm looking forward to the day where we can go back to a yearly SaaS, where we just kind of cut loose and have fun and drop some cool research, and we're not having to come up with stuff like every month, Usually like the spring and the fall that was a good timing, I think, for most of us to have some research to share. But it's cool we can still do it, I think, Looking forward to going back to normal. Let's put it that way.
And what Maheris says also, hazmat suits should be part of the event fees. Yeah.
I can't imagine SaaS as a socially distanced event. Let's put it that way.
No. I need to supply my Palinka, man. I need to supply it to you guys. Like, how would I be able to supply Palinka? Like, from my point of view, I think at least online conferences gave me a chance to attend like maybe online or maybe recorded events for conferences that were like far away from me. I'm in Romania, so most of the US conferences, it's hard for me to get there, especially in the summer. DEF CON, Black Hat is pretty crazy. Also, CCC is coming in December this month, as usual, at the end between Christmas and New Year's Eve. Sometimes I'm not able to leave Bucharest during that period, so I think I'm looking forward to see this conference. Well, CCC was always online anyway, so like it's not a big difference. But I think it is. I think there is a CCC. I've seen. No? I didn't buy a ticket. I know there were tickets on sale. I didn't buy one, but I think there is one. But yeah, Marco, there is one happening. Yeah, indeed. So yeah, anybody else wants to express their feelings about offline versus online conferences? I like your background, Brian, by the way.
I can give you my opinion if you want.
Yeah.
Frankly, I hate webinars. I'm sick of them. I don't know.
Wow.
I hate them. I've done so many this year, although I promised myself I would never ever be one of those people that send emails to ask people to attend my webinar. And now I broke that promise, and it makes me feel super bad about myself. But generally speaking, I think the whole point of conferences is not really to attend the talks, but to meet the people and talk with them. And this is something that we kind of lost here. Yeah, it's something I loved about B-Sides, for instance, and the one in Belfast. Warren knows about it. It's great because, you get to see all our friends, right? And it's something I'm missing. The webinars just do not compensate for this, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're right. The interaction's the big thing. It's awesome to be able to, sit down and shoot the shit with everybody, because you sometimes get ideas and we start to talk about things. It's really cool.
Okay. So we have one last question from Maxime, and then unfortunately, we're gonna have to wrap up. Who wants to answer Maxime's question, which is unrelated to the presentation, but most of the .NET malware we see nowadays is incorrectly flagged as Agent Tesla, given a similar obfuscation is used among them, securityagile.net. So the question is .NET malware classification something that is still being worked on, or is it the current heuristic detection enough from your perspective? Who wants to answer? Warren says that we can't accept generic detections. They work.
I can try something.
Please,
on this.
please.
I think from the end user products perspective, the important thing to us is to be able to detect something which is malicious with a high degree of confidence. So we rely on heuristics and generic detections to do that. So as long as it works, well, the verdict name is kind of a second priority. And for our own research, we of course rely on different items, tokens, and verdict names. So this does not necessarily alter our capability to link codes and detect activities from a tracked selector. So basically, yeah, that's in-house. And well, we probably try to work on that at a global level, but this is sufficient for now, and this does not hinder our work within GReAT.
Okay, thank you. So this being said, it's time to wrap up. I would like to thank all our speakers. I would like to thank our first guest speaker, Warren. Thanks a lot for taking your time to have a chat with us. I loved it. I think it was like pretty amazing. I loved all your quick answers. This concludes our last great ideas for this year. But don't be upset. We're gonna meet with you again next year in January for our next great ideas session. So Ivan, I'm sorry, we're still gonna continue doing some webinars. It is what it is until we meet face to face at SAS, which our SAS Security Analyst Conference is scheduled for April in Barcelona. Hopefully nothing will stop it this time. I wish you great holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, etc., etc., etc. Good weather, either if you're in Europe and freezing like myself, either if you're in some exotic place like Ivan, or in US with Brian. I would like to thank everybody for joining us today. There's gonna be like a link to give your feedback to us. Thanks a lot for joining us, and thanks to our speakers for this amazing session. Have a nice evening, and see you all next year. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.